And welcome to our extended coverage of the presidential debate tonight. I'm Cynthia Smoot.
And I'm Chris Cato. Thanks for sticking with us. Well, with an estimated 100 million viewers, which would be a new record for a presidential debate, all eyes were on the action at Hofstra University, where for the first time, Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump battled it out on everything from how to fix the economy to race relations in America and many other topics under the sun. Joining us now is Fox 13's political editor and host of Money, Power, Politics, Craig Patrick. And Craig, this debate was really serious right off the start and got pretty feisty about 10 minutes in.
Yeah, it started on policy, didn't it? We started off on jobs and how to put more money in the pockets of working class families. And with that, that's the number one issue that will drive voting behavior, according to all the polling that we've seen. And about 10 minutes in, that's when they really got into a tit for tat that I think drove the gist of this debate. And in scoring that, I'm not scoring in terms of who I think may have done better or worse or determining the best performance. You look at the persuadable voters out there and you try to look for the questions that may move them one way or the other. And there were a couple of places in that regard where Donald Trump lost some points. For example, he has been surging among African-American voters, up from, say, 3% to 22%, for example, in the state of Georgia. And he said a couple of things in this debate. In this case, it was actually a sigh that made do him no favors. Take a look.
We need law and order in the inner cities, because the people that are most affected by what's happening are African American and Hispanic people.
It's really unfortunate that he paints such a dire, negative picture of black communities in our country. Ugh. You know, the vibrancy of the black church, the black businesses that employ so many people, the opportunities that so many families are working to provide for their kids. There's a lot that we should be proud of and we should be supporting and lifting up.
Trump was also a bit wounded on a question about the birther movement. First off, he said he was doing the country a great service in pursuing it. And when pressed by Lester Holt why he continued to pursue it years after the president released his birth certificate, Trump just did not have a direct answer for that. Something else that I think may have cost Donald Trump a couple of points in a group that he had been making some inroads with just over the past couple of weeks.
And you know, you don't think of trade as being a sexy topic for a debate usually, but it has become one this time around.
This year, 2016, for Bernie Sanders when he ran against Hillary Clinton, and for Donald Trump when he's running against Hillary Clinton this year. It helped propel Trump in the primaries, and I think that may have done him some credit tonight, particularly as he pursued this line of question and answer against Hillary Clinton. Take a look.
Well, I hope
you called it the gold standard of trade deals. You said it's the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
And then you heard what I said about it, and all of a sudden you were against it.
Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality, but that is not the fact.
Yes, it is. According to AP fact checkers, that is exactly what Hillary Clinton said. That's an area where she may have been playing a little loose with the facts, and I think that may have cost her. Maybe not among a lot of persuadable voters, but you look at areas where manufacturing has been hit hard by some of these trade deals. I'm specifically thinking of Ohio, an important state, right? I'm thinking about Pennsylvania, an area where Trump has been surging of late. And if Trump is to win the presidency, he probably needs both of those states. That's where I think that exchange did him a great deal of good.
Well, she did encourage the fact checkers to go to work, so that may be one instance there where it doesn't work for her. So, first presidential debate, usually one of the more watched. How big of an impact do you think this will have on the election itself?
Look, they're virtually tied right now. I think this can move the needle as much as 10 points in the polls. Really? And I say that because right now you have 90% who are locked in. And people may think, boy, these are both so polarizing that people have already made up their minds one way or the other. Yeah, most people have, but not as many. There are more undecideds this year than there were 4 years ago, than there were 8 years ago, than there were 12 years ago. And I think those obviously 10% thereabouts out there may have paid a great deal of attention to this debate. And remember, I told you a couple of moments ago where Donald Trump did not answer a question as it relates to the birther movement. Again, I'm looking at persuadable voters here who could move in one direction or the other. Here is an example of that back and forth with the moderator and Donald Trump that I think may have cost him. Take a look.
The birth certificate was produced in 2011. You continued to tell the story and question the president's legitimacy in 2012, 13, 14, 15, as recently as January. So the question is, what changed your mind?
Well, nobody was pressing it. Nobody was caring much about it. I figured you'd ask the question tonight, of course, but nobody was caring much about it. But I was the one that got him to produce the birth certificate, and I think I did a good job.
And he's going back to talking points there. Again, he's not answering the question. You combine that with a moment about Donald Trump's tax returns, why he's not releasing them. Trump did throw a punch and land one on Hillary Clinton. Well, when she produces the deleted emails, by gosh, I'll produce my taxes, and my attorneys have advised me not to. And with that, he was able to defend himself to a certain extent. But Hillary Clinton was able to speculate in terms of why he wouldn't do that. And that one moment where he said, well, maybe it's because he didn't pay any federal taxes. He paid none whatsoever, and he doesn't want people to see that. And then Donald Trump chimed in, so that makes me smart, in effect, affirming what Hillary Clinton just leveled at him. His attempt to defend himself at that point, I think, cost him and may have cost him dearly in the debate. It's not a knockout punch by any respect, but if you're scoring it on points, I think that you certainly have to give us a couple of points there. Dock Donald Trump a couple of points in that particular moment.
Okay. In general, if the takeaway for tonight, I mean, it kind of looks to me like, you know, people who are for Trump are still for Trump, people for Hillary still for Hillary. But you do think we're going to see the undecideds move a little
it's
way?
It's that 10%. And if half of those move one way or the other, that's going to be a 5-point swing by the end of the week. And we will see how that plays out. But we're going to get into more specifics with Evan Axelbank. He'll be back with us in just a couple of minutes to break down more moments of this debate that we think may move the needle. And on top of that, we have a lot more to come. We're going to be taking a closer look at the numbers as well. The new polls are showing a very tight race, and we're going to take a look at the group the nominees are specifically targeting for their vote. So tonight we've been scoring the debate, but we want to take a closer look at the numbers and show why this is coming at such a critical time. Take a look at where the race stands right now.
Trump and Clinton enter this week locked in a virtual tie. Some national polls give Trump a slight edge while others favor Clinton. Before the debate, the average of polls gives Clinton a lead, but of less than 2 points. And Trump is surging in the battleground states that will decide the election. The CNN poll shows Trump within 2 points of Clinton in Pennsylvania and up by 1 point in Colorado. And remember the electoral map that gave Clinton a lock on the race last month? Well, now we may have a nail-biter on election night. The latest forecast gives Clinton 198 electoral votes to Trump's 165, and you need 270 to win. A lot of votes are still up for grabs, and young voters will likely swing the race. Clinton has a slight lead among millennials, but has been slipping and losing a lot of support to Johnson, Stein, and Trump. As a group, millennials are not particularly loyal to a party or candidate and do not like labels.
One has no political background, just straight up runs for candidacy because he has the money behind him. And then the second one has a political background, but also has a political background that isn't necessarily honest.
And so there you have it, Evan Axelbank, the challenge that both candidates are facing among young voters. Meanwhile, a driving issue heading into this debate was national security and law and order. How do you score it?
Well, you know, I certainly think that if you look at this debate in terms of moments, and let's face it, that's the way these debates are right now. You have moments. These moments get played out on Twitter, on Facebook. People post the videos, the campaigns post the videos. So if you score the debate on just the moments, I think there's no question that Hillary Clinton came out ahead in that category. She had kind of, you used to say, more made for TV moments. I think now it's more made for online kinds of moments. But, you know, Craig, you've been talking about those undecided voters, and there are a lot of them this time around. You've been saying 10%. I've been seeing some polls that have as many as 20% of folks who are undecided. So with that in mind, you have to think about, well, which way are they going to go? That's a lot of people out there. And one of the things that the campaigns are not only trying to do is, of course, they want to attract those undecided voters, and maybe the debate moments can help with that. But I think the Clinton camp is really focused on keeping her base where it is. I think there's been some erosion in states like Pennsylvania, frankly in states also like Florida, states like Ohio. I think this debate did well for her there. She spoke directly to the African American community, defended them on issues like what we've seen with some of the police shootings lately. Take a look at what Hillary Clinton had to say. She spoke directly to the black community on this relatively effectively.
Do you believe that police are implicitly biased against black people?
Lester, I think implicit bias is a problem for everyone, not just police. I think, unfortunately, too many of us in our great country jump to conclusions about each other. But when it comes to policing, since it can have literally fatal consequences, I have said in my first budget we would put money into that budget to help us deal with implicit bias by retraining a lot of our police officers.
And so I think what you're seeing there is Hillary Clinton trying to reassure her base. She's seen some slippage in the polls with African Americans of late. That's what I think she was doing there. When it comes to Donald Trump, there's always the question of which Trump are we going to see? And I think we saw in many ways the same Trump that we've been seeing at many of his campaign rallies that have become a signature of his campaign. He connected, I thought, very well on, as you said, Craig, a little earlier, on the trade issue. He had some good answers on that. And at one point, he even, as you said, stumped Hillary Clinton on one of the questions and one of the things that Lester Holt had asked about. The question with Trump is always, how well does he connect with people? And I think what we've seen is that he's connected very well when it comes to his base on issues like the wall in Mexico and things like that on the border. We didn't hear him speak about that tonight, so I'm sure in the next debate Donald Trump is going to try and bring that up. But he was also asked a very tough question about when he started to support or when he was against the Iraq War. There's been some debate about that, although the fact checkers have generally come out against him on that. But take a look at his answer to Lester Holt's question about when he started to say that the Iraq War was a mistake. For the first time, he admitted that there was some discrepancy in when that happened.
When I did an interview with Howard Stern, very lightly, first time anyone's asked me that, I said, very lightly, I don't know, maybe, who knows, essentially. I then spoke to Sean Hannity, which everybody refuses to call Sean Hannity. I had numerous conversations with Sean Hannity at Fox, and Sean Hannity said, and he called me the other day, and I spoke to him about it. He said, you were totally against the war, because he was for the war.
So two final thoughts to leave you with here, Craig. First of all, the issue of stamina came up. Donald Trump has said that he doesn't believe Hillary Clinton has the stamina to be president. Well, it's interesting. Some of the things I've been seeing on Twitter is that Donald Trump canceled an appearance that he had for the debate or after the debate at a watch party in Long Island, whereas Hillary Clinton went to her watch party. So there are some people, some partisans saying, hey, Hillary's still at it tonight. Why isn't Donald Trump? The second moment that I think, or the second thing that I think is going to keep playing over the next couple of days is this question of temperament. You heard some laughter in the crowd when Donald Trump suggested that he had a better temperament than Hillary Clinton has. I think that moment there, not planned by the campaigns, it's not even clear who was laughing, but it's the way it plays out and the way it sort of looks online that could play in this one, Craig. So let's watch and see how those two things, the stamina and the temperament answers, play out.
Eben, thank you. And again, it's not just undecided voters. When we say persuadable voters, we're talking about voters who may be locked into one candidate or the other, but may not be enthused enough to vote. To what extent will this rev them up? We're going to find out later this week. But tonight, we are a long way from finished because with the presidential candidates in New York, the vice presidential candidates are working overtime on the campaign trail. So up next, we'll show you Tim Kaine's stops right here in Florida.
So while the presidential candidates were getting ready for tonight's debate, their running mates were still out there on the campaign trail. In New Hampshire, Republican vice presidential nominee Mike Pence was there to rally Trump supporters, saying that Trump literally embodies the spirit of America.
And Democratic VP nominee Tim Kaine spent his day in Florida at an event in Lakeland this afternoon. Kaine talked about Hillary Clinton's passions, and he listed her work for children's insurance, empowering families, and helping the victims of 9/11. And from Lakeland, Kaine went to Orlando,
where he got some support from a couple of big names. Earlier in the evening, some 300 people came out to see Tim Kaine, who was joined by astronaut Mark Kelly and his wife, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. Now, you may recall she was shot in the head back in 2011, had a long rehab. Tonight, all three of them talked about going to the memorial here outside the Pulse nightclub to pay their respects to the victims. And they say gun violence has to stop.
When that was all over with, I prayed that that would be the worst ever. That there wouldn't be another one that would be as tragic and as painful. And so the fact that that tragedy gets eclipsed by something here, I just brought up a lot of emotions.
It was an opportunity, obviously, for us to pay our respects and stand in a way with this community here in Florida as you guys go through the difficult process of healing from a horrific tragedy. one that, similar experience that Gabby and I had to deal with in the state of Arizona 5 years ago. So to some extent, we know what you're going through.
In the White House, she will stand up to the gun lobby. That's why I'm voting for Hillary.
Tim Kaine will face off with Mike Pence in the vice presidential debate. That's next Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
All right, coming up, we're not done with Fox 13's political editor, Craig Patrick. He's back for some final thoughts and what to watch out for in the next presidential debate.
And Craig Patrick back with one more look at the hits and misses of tonight's debate.
And speaking of hits and misses, what can Trump and Clinton both learn from tonight that they can use in the next debate?
Well, they both avoided huge mistakes or gaffes. I think they both can learn a great deal because they've never done this before head-to-head. I think they know what's coming, how they'll approach it. Hillary Clinton said she wasn't sure which Donald Trump she was going to see, the one that throws firebombs during the Republican campaign series or the one who was far more disciplined over the past 3 weeks. Well, we saw the disciplined Donald Trump the first 10 minutes, and then he came out swinging after that, after she leveled a couple of volleys on him. With that, assuming that he does not change course, she knows how to approach it, and Donald Trump knows better how to approach her. And they will find out throughout the course of this week how well they landed their punches. We all will see this. And keep in mind, like I said a moment ago, it's not just winning over the undecideds, but it's revving up your base. Hillary Clinton dropped a great deal over the past 2 or 3 weeks, not just because of her health and other issues, but because you have pollsters changing the methodology from all registered voters to now looking for who they think are the likely voters. And where people are not as enthused for one candidate or the other, it will bring down their numbers. Where Hillary Clinton's voters have not been as enthused. She's going to find out very quickly to what extent she moved the needle in that regard. And with that, that's what she will learn. Donald Trump will also learn how to engage Hillary Clinton in a one-on-one debate. This is something that he has never done before. He did not prepare and train for it as much as Hillary Clinton did. He chided her for it, as a matter of fact, and she had a very good comeback on that. Well, yes, I was preparing off the campaign trail for 4 days because that's what you do, and that's how I would prepare for the candidacy.
So they dissected what works, what didn't, what worked, what didn't. And then the next debate, do they have particular subjects or is it another free-for-all?
It's going to be a town hall type of format. This too can be different. It can be a little more of a wild card candidate depending on who the mix of the people asking the questions.
You get half of the questions from a moderator and half from audience members, right?
And your nonverbal communication can go a lot further in helping or hurting you, as it did toward Al Gore, charging toward George W. Bush, remember in that moment, or George H.W. Bush checking his watch. Those moments can also make a big difference.
Well, that's 1 down, 2 to go, and the vice presidential nominees, of course. The news keeps on going online on Fox13News.com and on our Fox 13 News app.
And Good Day coming your way at 4 a.m. from all of us here at Fox 13. I hope you have a great night.
This is Secretary Clinton's 2 minutes, please.